Hey everybody, it's Andrew back again with another review, and I've been using the ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 11 that you see here for the past week, and I've been really liking it. But there are a couple of things that I wanted to see improvements from the Gen 10 to really improve here in Gen 11. One of the things, of course, is going to be battery life, thermals, and of course, performance. Now, the big difference here this time around is that they sent over one with the U series processor, a 15-watt, 13th gen processor from Intel, specifically the Core i7-1355U. And the thinking, of course, is you're going to see better battery life, better thermals, hopefully, over the Gen 10. We're going to find out if going to that 15-watt CPU makes the difference. Now, you can't get this in a 4K plus IPS display anymore, but the good news is you can now get it back in an OLED display, 2.8K to be specific. I don't have that one, but of course, I'm looking for better battery life. So I have the Full HD Plus touch display, and I'm not disappointed. We're going to get into the metrics and everything in this review. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 11 all new for 2023. Coming up. Now, before we get to the unboxing, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Lenovo. I'm not being sponsored by Lenovo. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Lenovo is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit is on loan from Lenovo, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Pricing on the X1 Carbon Gen 11 starts at $1,414.59 over at Lenovo's website, and priced as configured here today with this review unit can be had for $2,085.99 over at CDW. For those interested, I'll drop a link in the description below for more information, and we can buy one. And without further ado, let's get this out of the box. We got your power cord right there, okay? And then we have should be a 65 watt adapter. Yep, it's 65 watts, as you can see it there, okay? And it uses the USB Type-C as a connection. So we've seen this before, pretty compact, also pretty decent, okay? We get some documentation here. Some documentation, warranty information, yada, 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 no big deal. And there she is. So right off the bat, you can see right here, we have the basic black on this. But of course, if you go with the 2.8K resolution option, you do get that carbon fiber weave. We have it on the 30th anniversary. I can show you in a minute. This one is beautiful. And again, these are hard to keep clean. We've seen this before. They do collect a lot of fingerprints. Now, you can see that this is a carbon fiber magnesium materials that they're using. I believe there's some recycled materials used here. I like the access in the inside. I believe the RAM is soldered in, so don't get too excited. Again, the new option here is 64 gigabytes is going to be an option. And I'm seeing 1.166 kilograms. And if we convert that over to pounds, 2 pounds, 9.1 ounces. Now, travel weight, let's put this on here. It brings it up to 1.472 kilograms, 3 pounds, 3.9 ounces for those that are wondering. Okay, let's check out the port selection. On the left side are two USB Type-C ports that are Thunderbolt 4, supporting data, charge, and display out. You get a USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 port, and next to that is an HDMI 2.0B port. Now, moving over to the right side is a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack, a second USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 port, and finally a Kensington lock port to round out the ports on this laptop. I would say all in all, a really good port selection, especially for a thin and light portable as we have here. Although notably missing, there is no micro SD card or regular size SD card reader. Now, once again, Lenovo makes it really easy to get inside this laptop. All you need to do is loosen the captive Phillips head screws, pry off the bottom plate with a guitar pick or a pry tool. It comes off pretty easily, and you're in. Now, once inside, you'll notice the two fans for cooling. We'll get into the thermal performance later on in this review. And you'll also notice the 57 watt-hour battery. We'll get into the battery life as well later on in this video. Now, as far as what's user upgradable, the SSD is user upgradable. And as you can see, PCIe Gen 4 SSD speeds here, excellent reads and writes that we like to see here in 2023. Now, as far as the RAM, unfortunately, that is soldered into the motherboard, not upgradable by the user, but they're using LPDDR5 RAM, and it is running in dual channel mode. Now, the good news is, according to the press materials, you can now outfit this with up to 64 gigabytes of that RAM instead of the 32. You could only max it out last year. So that's a pretty nice improvement here as far as those that need that extra RAM. You can spec it out. I didn't see an option just yet, but of course, according to that press material, it is certainly an option. All right, let's talk about the wireless. We're looking at Wi-Fi 6E Bluetooth combo card here, and that is soldered into the motherboard, not upgradable by the user. As far as that Wi-Fi 6E and the Bluetooth 5.1, both working flawlessly, no issues on either front. Now, as far as mobile broadband, you have two options here. You can go with the 4G LTE Cat 16 modem, or you can go with the 5G sub-6 Cat 20 modem that will give you that 5G. Both support eSIM, both support a physical nano SIM. Of course, those are options you can go with, and especially if you're that mobile road warrior that needs that always-on secure connection. And for me personally, having the mobile broadband is a game changer in a lot of ways, because I don't want to have to rely on my phone to be a mobile hotspot, or I don't want to rely on unsecure Wi-Fi hotspots in an airport or a cafe. You just never know what's going to happen with those. So you want to have that security of having that mobile broadband when you need it, always on, ready to go. Now, as you can see here, there are a number of options when it comes to the displays, but what we have here new this year is a 14-inch 2.8K OLED option that can get as bright as 400 nits. It's 100% DCI-P3, iSafe certified, anti-glare, anti-reflective. Of course, that is their premium display this year. No longer can you get this with a UHD Plus or 4K Plus IPS. You're going to have to go with the 2.8K OLED as far as the top-of-the-line resolution. Now, there's also a 2.2K option. Of course, I don't have that one. And then there's a option that we have here today, and that is same as last year. It's the Full HD Plus touchscreen option with the low blue light filter and the anti-glare coating on it. And as you can see here, it is an excellent display. And this is the one display that I would recommend for most people who don't need that high resolution, because this is going to give you not only a nice display, but it's also going to give you better battery life. We'll get into the battery life later on in this review. It's really good this year. We're seeing an improvement. And having that Full HD Plus doesn't really skimp on a lot of the things you want in the display. You get the deep blacks, you get the vibrant colors, you get the high contrast here. It's just not going to be as good as that 2.8K OLED display. But again, it'll be more efficient. Now, if you're a content creator, I would look at the OLED, of course, because it is a higher resolution and it does have the better color accuracy, the better coverage of the color gamut. But as far as this Full HD Plus IPS display, those things are not bad at all on this. It's actually really good. It's just not going to be as good as that OLED option. Now, of course, you could always go with that 2.2K IPS option, but that is not one that's going to be as good in terms of battery life as this one is. Now, when watching movies, consuming media such as Netflix, Amazon, YouTube on this Full HD Plus IPS display, it's been great. It's a touchscreen display. I love the fact that it's responsive. Being able to navigate through the OS with your finger pinch to zoom, it all worked well. Now, keep in mind, this is a 60 hertz display, no option for higher refresh rate on any of the models, including the 2.8K OLED. Again, these are business-focused, commercial-based laptops that I don't think the user base really cares too much about that. What they're going to care about is that this is going to be good for productivity. It's going to be good for longevity in terms of that battery life. And again, I keep harping on the battery life because that's what the target audience needs for this particular commercial-based laptop. And I love the fact that this is a matte display. You don't have to contend with unnecessary glare or reflections, or at least not as much as you would if it was a glossy display with Gorilla Glass and stuff like that. I do appreciate having the touch display layer on a matte display. It's not something we normally see every day, so I do appreciate the effort they put in to making that happen. So this is the camera on the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 11 here for 2023. What we have here is a 1080p camera, 30 frames per second. That is, of course, good for your Zoom calls, good for your work from home needs, hybrid work needs. It's also an IR camera. That means you can log in with face recognition with Windows Hello. There's also a fingerprint scanner. The power button doubles as the fingerprint scanner, allowing you to log in as well. Now, as far as the studio effects, you have the auto framing as you see here. We've seen this before. You got the eye contact, a little bit of a creepy mode, of course. And then you have the background blur effect as you see here. So a lot of the features we've been seeing in a lot of these laptops here for 2023 are present here. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section below. Okay, folks, let's get into performance. And as I mentioned earlier, this is running the Core i7-1355U, a 13th gen processor from Intel. It has 10 cores, 8 efficient cores, and 2 performance cores. And as you can see from the numbers here, the benchmarks show this is definitely capable when it comes to productivity work, doing everyday tasks such as Microsoft Office, email, web browsing. It all worked well. Now, you're not seeing the most significant increase in terms of the single and multi-core performance. In fact, we're seeing some thermal throttling, as I'll show you in a moment. But when it comes to something like the Cinebench R23, which accounts for thermal throttling in a heavy sustained workload, it finished last on the list here, scoring just 5,466. So that's a little bit interesting numbers as we see here. And then, of course, when you compare it year over year over the Gen 10, which had a P series processor versus a U series, you're definitely seeing some of the benchmarks not being as good as the P series, which is to be expected here, since they did go with a 15-watt CPU as opposed to a 28-watt on this particular review unit. Now, it does have integrated Iris Xe graphics, so it goes without saying. It's not going to really be great for playing AAA titles on the highest settings. In fact, it's not really in the card. So definitely temper your expectations when it comes to this integrated graphics solution, of course. But of course, it does have 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports that this has, which will allow you to add an external GPU. But if you lower some of the settings, you can get some playable frame rates. And that, of course, will be okay when you're in the downtime, when you're not doing some work on this. But it's really not meant for that. And I think most of you already know that. It's meant to be a productivity machine to take with you on the road. And as I mentioned earlier, this will thermal throttle when put under heavy load. And as indicated by this TimeSpy stress test score, 77.1, it indicated that it did thermal throttle in order to lower some of the temperatures so it wouldn't overheat. So you definitely will notice thermal throttling on this unit. And because it thermal throttles, it never got overly hot, never too hot to the touch when it comes to the surface temperatures. As you see here, a couple of hot spots here and there, but I didn't find it overly hot to the point where you can't use it on your lap or your fingers will burn when trying to type on it. Didn't get that hot, of course. It does thermal throttle, as I mentioned. And when it comes to the fan noise under heavy load, it never went above 43, 44 decibels, which is actually pretty good compared to other laptops. Wasn't overly annoying in terms of the fan noise. And when you're using it in the productivity mode, or the balance mode, I should say, when you're doing everyday tasks, the fans weren't really an issue. Okay, let's talk about battery life, and we're definitely seeing a nice improvement here with Gen 11 as the units that I compared, the Gen 10 from last year that had the Core i7-1260p versus the one I have this year in Gen 11, the Core i7-1355U. So a difference in the processors, but they have the same Full HD Plus touch display. So that's a pretty good comparison here. And when I ran the PC Mark 10 Modern Office battery test, the Gen 11 did 11 hours and 41 minutes versus the 10 hours and 49 minutes on the Gen 10. So about an hour increase in terms of battery life on that test. But the real big difference is coming with the video playback. When I ran the PC Mark 10 video playback test, it did 14 hours and 4 minutes, which was a significantly more than last year, which did 9 hours and 14 minutes on that same test. So my overall takeaway is we're seeing a nice year-over-year improvement when it comes to battery life. Now, for those wondering, yes, you can open the lid with one finger and the screen goes back 180 degrees. So for those that want to have the perfect viewing angle each and every time, you have the option here, that's for sure. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite parts of the Carbon, and that would be its legendary ThinkPad keyboard. Now, some people have criticized it in the last few generations of not being as good as previous generations. I have to disagree on that level. I really do like this keyboard when it comes comes to typing out long documents, emails. I love the tactility. I love the feedback. It's just something about these ThinkPad keyboards that the other laptops from other brands just can't compete with. This to me is still the best. Now, this is a spill-resistant keyboard, which I love, of course, and it has a multi-level, multi-stage backlight that allows you to get work done in a dark room or a dimly lit environment. Worked well. Now, as far as that hinge, by the way, I didn't notice a lot of screen wobble when I was typing on this keyboard, which can be a little bit of an annoyance in some other laptops, not an issue on this one. Nice job on those hinges. Now, as far as the touchpad, working well in terms of the two-finger scrolling, doing all the gestures. Everything seems to work out just fine with that. And of course, let's not forget the venerable TrackPoint is here. And of course, it's part of the ThinkPad DNA. Thought it worked fine. Okay, when it comes to the audio, I'm actually really impressed with what the X1 Carbon Gen 11 brings to the table. It has Dolby Atmos speakers, so that really does help out with the spatial audio. I thought the volume was good, the mids were good, there was some bass. Really good for a business-focused laptop, of course, not something we normally see. Now, of course, let's compare it to the MacBook Pro 14, the M1 Pro that I have here, and I think that has the best speakers on a 14-inch laptop. But you be the judge. This is a really good one here, ladies and gentlemen. It's not quite as good as the MacBook Pro, but for a Windows laptop that is geared towards business users, I think this is really good. Let's give them a listen. Okay, let's wrap it all up. There's a lot to like here, especially the option for a 2.8K OLED display. I like the improved battery life. I like the fact that it runs cooler. Like the excellent keyboard once again. 4G LTE or 5G as far as mobile broadband. Those are great options, of course. And it has a pretty great port selection, notably missing no microSD card slot. Negatives, of course, no 4K plus option this time around, no higher refresh rate option, throttles under heavy load as I showed you in the numbers. It collects fingerprints, of course, but that's been par for the course for most of the life of the X1 Carbon, and it has soldered RAM, not upgradable by the user. So if you're in the market for a great business class laptop with an excellent keyboard, really great battery life, mobile broadband as an option, and a nice 2.8K OLED display, well, this may be your ticket. I highly recommend the ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 11 here for 2023. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.